Live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Just Bernard Show here across Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere you might find me. Hi, it's another week. I miss you guys. I haven't been around for a couple of weeks. I did take last Tuesday off. A lot going on, good and stressful. My plate is full as usual, even though I do enjoy it that way. So over the last couple of weeks, well, let me just say that today I'm doing a different kind of show. But before we get into that, let me say hello to a few of you. I did see a few of you pop in on the chat already. Hi, Kathy. How are you? Hi, Pam. Good to see you both. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, like I was saying, last week I did take the day off. I needed to kind of regroup a little bit. Nothing bad or anything, just really tired. It's weird energies are going on, and it's good and it's bad. There's so much happening in the world, and for those of us who do the kind of work that I do, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I decided I needed to take one thing off my plate, and that was last week's show. So, and unfortunately, I think I might have to take off the next week too. I'm hoping I don't have to, but right now that's up in the air. Anyway, as you can see, I'm doing a very casual show today. I have my old living room background, which is a real non-blue screen background, because I wanted this to be a little bit more intimate. So let me tell you why I'm doing today's show the way that I'm doing it. About a year or so ago, I had a roommate staying with me, living with me, and she liked to hear my stories. She was like, "Oh my God, that's such a great story. You really should share that. You need to, save that for posterity and whatnot." I'm like, "Oh, please, come on. No, you've had a very interesting life, la 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 la." Anyway, so I always said, I've been saying now for about a year, I want to share more personal stories. One, yeah, I think it would be kind of cool to have them saved somewhere. And two, doing this work, whether it be spiritual work, activism work, whatnot, I have been doing it for, I don't want to say how many decades, a lot of decades, more than two. So with that experience, it does give me the opportunity to reflect back on all the lessons I've learned and how these experiences have molded me, have molded my perception of the world, everything from my real life experiences to my spiritual out-of-body experiences. So I always said I would get around to sharing some of these stories. So this is going to be the first of my quote-unquote personal stories segment that I'm going to do every couple of months, maybe. This one in particular, the "what do you mean I'm a spiritual influencer," was inspired by several emails that I had received and a couple comments that I read where someone had labeled me a spiritual influencer. And first of all, I don't know how that, I think that's like an oxymoron. No offense to people who title themselves or label themselves a spiritual influencer. I guess that's a compliment. But I never thought of myself as a spiritual influencer or an influencer in any way. That's not what I got into this for. So I wanted to kind of reintroduce myself to everybody. And for those of you that have just started following me recently, uh, maybe know where I'm coming from, how did this all get started. And for those of you that have been following me for a long time, to kind of explain myself, because things have changed. My YouTube channel is very different than it was in 2007. My Facebook page is very different than what it was in 2009 or 2010, you know. So let's start there. Let's start at the beginning. Well, the beginning. Um, the beginning was the end, and that's where I'll start, 2006. Um, I'm sure those of you that have been following me for a while know that when I started this social media presence, I was not in the best place. And even though I have been a Reiki master since like 98 or 99, I've been the high priest of a half a dozen covens throughout South Florida and Central Florida. I had been working on studying shamanism and the occult and all that since 91, 92. But, you know, here comes 2006, maybe it was 2005, the mid '00s. And I'm living in South Florida, and Hurricane Wilma hit. And at that time, I was I was in the fashion biz. I was a stylist, and I had my own salon. The hurricane blew it up to smithereens, literally. I lost my work, I lost my clientele, and at about that time, I was going through what you might call my second awakening. More of my geopolitical awakening, and you could say that was my introduction to the truther movement. For those of you that remember the 9/11 truth movement back in the day when it was purely libertarian and anti-corruption. I won't get into what it is now. But so I started posting videos on activism, and it was just stuff that was happening to me, injustices that I was going through, dealing with symptoms of what living in a hurricane, living through a devastating hurricane, and the hardships that come along with that. And I had posted some videos on YouTube. By the way, I started my YouTube channel in 2006, and actually in July, I think it's July, it'll be the anniversary. So we're looking at, oh, no way, my 15th anniversary on YouTube in July. Wow. Hi, YouTube. Thank you for sticking around for all these years. Anyway, but at the same time, I had made a decision that I was going to, well, long story short of that, the hard stuff, I ended up losing everything. I lost my home, my work. I was couch surfing, basically homeless. And the only thing I had was my computer. And I had said to myself, this isn't working. This idea of trying to live in this capitalistic system, working in an industry where looks and material things are all that matter. So I was like straddling two worlds for decades, you know, living in this, you know, what I considered a very shallow industry. I don't anymore. Now I've gotten over it. There is a lot of creativity, and yeah, I got to express that. But at the time, I was so hurt by the way the industry had treated me and the professionals, my colleagues and whatnot. It was, I had to turn my back on it. And I said, I am going to do what I was meant to do. And I knew I was meant to focus on spirituality and focusing on making the world a better place. So I got involved in sacred activism. So it was kind of a blend of activism and spirituality. Duh. And anyway, so I posted this video on what I was going through and what my landlord was doing to me. A lot of illegal stuff was going on. I don't want to rehash ugliness because it was rough, and I've gotten over it, and I forgive everyone that was involved. However, I posted it on YouTube, and Sky News got a hold of me. This is back in 2006. And they're like, we would like to use your video. Can we please use your video? We're doing a story on how people are using social media to create change in the world and using social media as an activist platform. I was like, yeah, go right ahead. That would be great, you know? And so they did. And immediately my channel got a lot of new visitors and whatnot. For many years, I was the #3 channel in the world for nonprofits and activism. At that time, I knew I was going to create an organization. I didn't know what it was going to be. But jump up a few years, things kind of just stayed in neutral for me personally. I couch surfed probably for about 3 years during this process. And thank you to all my friends that helped me and supported me with that. But so what had happened was that getting involved with my roots, my spiritual roots. And I remember my former husband had said to me, "Your book, you need to write your book." He had read the book, he had read the manuscript, and we would even get into arguments. He's like, "Why aren't you living your truth? This is your truth. The words that are in the book. Why aren't you living them? Why aren't you following your own advice?" So I started reconnecting with my guides again and asking them to be a part of my life and guide me. And literally, they're like, "We are the one that did this to you. We would need you to. We need you to not be distracted so you can focus on this work." And one night I was sleeping on the couch and they appeared to me and said, "You are going to start the Global Illumination Council." This was around 2007 or 8 maybe. And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm going to start this Global Illumination Council?" And they gave me this, for lack of a better term, it was like a pledge. And I was pledging that I was going to do this work, and that was the basis of what the GIC was based on. I had posted it as a petition, actually, and it took off as a petition, and it made the rounds back on MySpace. Remember that? I had several pages on MySpace, and one day I had moved from couch to couch, and I was staying at another person's house, and suddenly I got inspired to sit at the computer and figure out a way to create a social network. I was going to create the Global Illumination Council social network. Now, mind you, I've never had any training in HTML at the time. You know, I guess that was the coding that was done. I didn't know anything about, I knew MySpace, that was it. I knew how to do email and I knew MySpace. I was not technically inclined at all. And something just came over me, and the next thing you know, I'm guided to this one site, Ning. I don't know if you guys remember Ning, Ning. And 5, 6, 7 hours later, we had the GIC social network. It was like I always kid around, it came out like a burp or something like that. And I borrowed that from Melanie. She says that on one of her CDs. It came out like a burp. I don't know where it came from. It just happened. And we started sharing it around. And at its peak, the GIC had about, I believe we had 45,000 members. And that was kind of a big deal, you know. And during this process, I started, I was listening to a lot of Carrie Cassidy and what's the guy's name? Bill, her partner at that time. And I had met a lot of great people because I would contact some of their guests and whatnot. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to do the same thing. Let's go ahead. I found Blog Talk Radio. I believe it was around 2009, maybe, that we started it wasn't called the Just Bernard Show then. I think it was just GIC Radio or something like that. And we started bringing a lot of people on and interviewing them. We covered everything from chemtrails to UFOs to shamanism. Again, the light worker movement was very big during that era and very much a part of my life. The law of attraction was, really big at that time. And I had booked a guest who was a big to-do. I believe they were out of Texas. Mind you, I was still in Miami, Fort Lauderdale at that time. And gosh, I just remembered it was during that time that Lady Blossom Fairchild, whatever her name was, the the Pleiadians were going to land. You remember that? The ships are coming to Texas, or I forgot where she said they were going to land. But Blossom Goodchild, I don't know if you remember her, but that was like the whole big thing at the time. That just popped in my head. But I had booked this guest who was very big in the law of attraction. I was like, I'd like to have her on. Well, the day came and she couldn't make it, but her PR person said, if you'd like, I would step in for her. I was like, yeah, please, that would be great. I'm like, you've got great energy. She had great energy, and I had her on the show. And her name she's still around, still a part of my life, I'd like to think, Annabelle. God, now I'm going to forget her name. I'm so sorry. Annabelle, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Anyway, I have to look it up. So Annabelle was on the show, and she was so good. And we ended up speaking for hours after the show, and we just connected, and we became like long lost best friends. Like, we recognized each other, and we connected. And I asked her to join the team of the GIC, and I made her co-director of the site. She became my co-host and was my co-host for years, and really supported the work, helping to get new guests to come on and whatnot. And anyway, just keeping me motivated and inspired. She was a great Montalbano. Hello, Annabelle Montalbano. Anyway, we still remain friends, and I do miss her dearly all the time. But during that time, we ended up having creating a board of directors. Our motive was to create a nonprofit at the time. If you know anything about the lightworker movement or the activist movement, it's like herding cats. And we just had a really hard time getting, much less having a board meeting and everyone following through, and they were supposed to do, much less organizing enough to be able to start a nonprofit. But we trudged on through. We had people come through, like, that's when we met people from Collective Evolution, Joe Martino. I met Miriam Delicato during that time. Met Carrie Cassidy during that time. Anelia Benz. And Janine Austin, who was a wonderful co-host after Annabelle left. She was the one who knew John Trudell and brought John Trudell onto the show, which was a great honor to have him on our show. Anyway, so during this time, I was very much involved in the truther movement, and I guess you could call it the conspiracy world, for lack of a better term. But I was also involved in the spiritual movement, so it was very push and pull for me. A lot. I was noticing around this time, around 2008, 2009, that a lot of the people that I knew within the truther movement were starting to show signs of homophobia. They were not tolerant at all of my paganism. It was like, you're a Satanist. It's like, no, I'm not a Satanist. There's a big difference. And I started getting very frustrated, and I slowly started moving away from that world. During this time, the first edition of my book came out. I won't go into the whole story of the book because I've said it 1,000 times on dozens of radio show interviews. But let's just say that Annabelle was the one who transcribed it and really pushed me to publish it, and that's when the Book of One came out, which is the basis of my work. And so I started moving away from the whole truther movement, so to speak, because I was getting very disenchanted with the type of people that I was interacting with, and I didn't like the being angry all the time stuff that was going on. So around that time, though, 2009, 2010, I started getting attacked by Anonymous, the real Anonymous, not QAnon, the original Anonymous with the Guy Fawkes mask, and they were, at the time, they were going after Scientology. I don't know if you remember that. And I loved it. I followed them and whatnot. Well, they thought I was a cult leader named Bernard, I want to say Pullman, somewhere out of Australia. I forgot his last name. Anyway, I was actually friends with a lot of his followers. I thought they were very interesting. But they thought I was Bernard Pullman, and they started trolling me, and they started doing the DDoS attacks or whatnot. And I mean, the website was taken down, my YouTube channel, my MySpace pages and whatnot, and they really started causing trouble for me. Hacktivists, hello. So finally, they realized I get a letter, I get an email from one of them. They're like, "We are so sorry. You are not who we thought you were." Blah, 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 blah. "We're so sorry we did this to you. We didn't mean to do it to you. We've looked at your stuff. You're really inspiring." La, 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 really, really, really nice compliments. And I was like, "Hey, this is great because I love you guys. I think what you're doing is fantastic." So a couple weeks later, I guess this is 2010 or whatnot, a couple weeks later, I start noticing that the Facebook page is growing. I went from like 15,000 followers to 60,000, and a couple days later it was up to like 80,000, and a couple days later it was up to 120,000, then 200,000, and I think we went as high as 300,000 during that time. I think we're down to about 260,000 now on Facebook. But and I get this message. They're like, "We put you on the front page of Reddit." What? "We're so sorry. We put you on the front page of Reddit." So apparently that is my claim to fame. That's what made me so popular on Facebook. I guess they put my Facebook page on the front page of Reddit. Does it even still have a front page anymore? I don't know. But I got involved with them. I can't really say I was a hacktivist because I don't know how to do that stuff, but I did support them. I became friends with dozens and dozens of them, and I would promote their causes, like on Facebook and whatnot, and do promotion for them. I think I had a couple of them on the show. I don't know if they were allowed to say they were, or if I was allowed to say they were, but I did have a few that I believe one of them actually remained anonymous for their safety. But very interesting guests throughout the years. Very, very interesting guests throughout the years. Anyway, so as you can imagine, during this time, YouTube made me a partner. And my channel was growing through leaps and bounds, and I was actually making a living at one time doing this work, especially, well, just through YouTube. I actually was able to make a living. And then come 2012, things started to change. I don't know if you all remember, and I knew it was going to. I'm like, this is not going to last forever. They're going to start censoring me. They're going to start censoring me. And they did. And my YouTube income, and I will share this openly, my YouTube income went from almost a couple $1,000s a month to I'm lucky to get $50 a month now. I mean, I don't make a living off this at all. At all. But that's neither here nor there. So about 2012, when this all started happening, I had become very good friends with Joe Martino and Collective Evolution, and they actually came down to Roanoke, and they filmed me, and they put me in their third film. I don't know if you remember the Collective Evolution films. So I was one of the featured people on that film. That was really a lot of fun. A couple years later, I was asked by a woman that was doing a project called the Faces of Change or something like that. Faces of the pages that make the change. I forgot. Anyway, it was a book about influencers that are activists and change makers or whatnot. And so I was featured in one of those books. And about that time, I don't know if you guys remember Roxy Lopez, who was a very dear friend of mine. I still love her dearly. We talk about once a year maybe, or once every couple of years. But I started her show, The Truth Denied, and she ended up moving to Revolution Radio, and I decided I might as well just go to Revolution Radio with her. So I did, and I was with Revolution Radio for about 4 or 5 years. And back in, I want to say 2018-ish, I decided I needed to just work alone. And I kind of, we dissolved the GIC back in 2013, 2014, and I knew this is where it was leading up to. It was like, I just want to work alone. I just want to work alone. And I decided to just go solo. And this is why you're seeing me now on video. A lot of the radio shows weren't video. I tried to, the technology just wasn't available. But now it's just all video across several social media platforms. Yes, I have a lot of software to help me. Let's say that technology's gotten better. So yes, I have a lot of software that helps me. And no, I really don't work alone. I shouldn't say that. I still have people that I rely on to help me with certain aspects of the work that I do. And I thank you for all of that. But, going back to the fact that I said I don't make a living off this. Yeah, I don't. The money that comes in from like YouTube and whatnot, the donations, the Patreon and all that barely covers the cost of software, the cost of licensing and all the stuff, all the fees and whatnot that I have to pay to keep this going. But I don't care. As long as it doesn't cost me money, I will keep doing it. But I will say, because of the work that I do, it has given me the resume, quote unquote, to work with other organizations. So that's what I'm grateful for. I work part-time with a local nonprofit. I work with a global nonprofit. I work with the Roanoke Diversity Center. I work with the Gray School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Gray School of Wizardry with Oberon Zell, which is an honor to work with one of my heroes growing up as a baby witch back in the 80s. I've worked with Miriam Delicato's The Great Gathering, working on indigenous causes. So it has worked out for me in that sense that I get to, but it's made me so busy. I'm not complaining. And yes, of course, I do take personal clients now. I have my own website, and I get to meet you guys one-on-one when you book appointments with me. I get to work with you. As a matter of fact, I have a healing session after the show, which I'm looking forward to. And I just love this work. I love this work. With that being said, I think the reason why I wanted to talk about all of this today is that I haven't been very personal on my fan page on Facebook. I've kind of just been staying away from the comments because, moving away from the angry truther scene, and with all the turmoil that's been going on in the world, the energy was just too much for me to handle, all the attacks and whatnot. I respect myself enough that if people don't respect me, I don't feel they're going to learn from me, and they're not going to hear what I have to say. So I've just learned not to interact. Now, that's not to say that that's changing. I'm sure those of you that are on my pages or on my Instagram or on my YouTube, I'm like, I don't do nonsense. If you want to be a jerk to me, I'll just block you. I don't care. But I want to become more engaged again. So this is my I'm coming back Facebook page. I've always been active on my profile, though. But I'm coming back to my Facebook page. I'm coming back to my YouTube comments. I do want to be more engaged with all of you. And I do want to share more of my personal stories. I've had a very interesting life leading up to the work that I do. Yes, I've been involved in spiritual stuff for 3/4 of my life. But that's not to say when I was straddling the two worlds that I didn't have an interesting time growing up in South Beach and hanging out with partying with celebrities and whatnot. So a lot of interesting stuff that has helped me have the wisdom of what not to do anymore. But and the same thing goes with social media and my presence on social media. So I have learned a lot, and I'm just so grateful that I have been able to meet hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of you. I've had some of you come to South Florida. I've had some of you come to Roanoke. I've gone to see you. I mean, I've literally made friends from all over the world. people that I consider very, very dear friends, followers and fans that I consider close to my heart. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of this. So I've got to go because I'm running late. But before I do, I just want to peek in the chat because I've been yapping and I haven't let you yap. So let me say hello to John on YouTube. And hi, Terry. Jeez. Hi, Cindy. No, I haven't heard of the Clubhouse, the app. Huh. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that I do have something that I need to do next week. So I don't know if I will be able to be here next week. I think it's time for us to do another meditation. And thank you, Saskia, for that. Thank you for saying it's nice to get to know me better. Anyway, I have something I need to do. I don't know if I'll be able to be here next week. Hopefully I will. If I do, I did promise some Q&A time today, but we're out of time. I didn't realize I was yapping for so long. But please, if you have any questions, hold on to them. Please send them to me in a direct message or, yeah, it would have to be a direct message. And I will answer them all next week. April is going to be pretty casual. I want to keep it casual, kind of a get to know you thing. And May, we're going to go back into meditation. We're going to be celebrating Beltane. And we'll go back into the work of consciousness and helping to elevate the energy of the planet together. So with that, please, if you are on YouTube, please remember to subscribe, click that little bell. If you're on Facebook, please share my page. Please share this. If you like what I'm doing, please consider becoming a patron, a Facebook subscriber, or a YouTube subscriber. I forgot what the names are. Or just make a donation. Every little bit helps, and I look forward to it. Thank you so much for being a part of my life for all of these years. It'll be, God, 10, 15 years in a few months. Wow. I love you all. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.